incumbent Democrats, who are two of the most vulnerable Democrats in the country, and they're great opportunities. They're two of the best pickup opportunities in the country to take the gavel out of Nancy Pelosi's hand, and I'm working very hard to take the gavel out of Pelosi's hands because she has, since the Democrats took the House, that they have completely halted working for jobs, working for the economy, working for the families who are hurting right now in this economic crisis, and instead their only priority seems to be impeaching and attacking the president. And so I think Dan Rotheimer and Jim Marchant are going to be strong leaders in Congress, and it was great to be out in Nevada and helping them and encouraging the good people of Nevada.
You have a new book out. It's called One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History. I got to ask you, it drops tomorrow. Did you intend to drop this book tomorrow, or did you move it up? Nobody knew that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was going to pass away.
Well, your instincts are good. We had planned to release it a week from tomorrow, so it was coming out in a week, and we moved it up a week, obviously given everything that's happening. But it's a book that I wrote this spring and summer during COVID lockdown when I was working from home, and as you know, before I was in the Senate, I was a Supreme Court litigator, and my job was arguing cases at the U.S. Supreme Court. And so what this book does is each chapter in the book addresses a different constitutional liberty. And so there's a chapter on free speech. There's a chapter on religious liberty. There's a chapter on the Second Amendment. There's a chapter on U.S. sovereignty. There's a chapter on democracy and elections, focusing on Bush versus Gore, where I helped represent George W. Bush in that litigation. And it was the last big contested election, and we may have another one come November. And what each chapter does, Kevin, is it tells war stories of really the inside story behind the big landmark cases. And many of these landmark cases I helped litigate. So it tries to take you behind the curtain in terms of who the justices are and what the issues are they're deciding. And it really focuses on the big 5-4 cases. And so many of the biggest cases were 5-4, which means we're just one vote away from either preserving our liberties or undermining them. And I think that is very much what's at stake in the confirmation of Judge Barrett, but also in the election come November 3rd.
Again, Senator Ted Cruz joining us. He will be one of the 100 senators to vote on Amy Coney Barrett. I'm amazed that this book comes out just as Democrats are singing the tune, oh, we can get by with 8, it's okay, we don't need a 9th Supreme Court justice. But I think this book ought to be a part of the confirmation hearing, and every Democrat should get a copy of the book.
Well, I think Democrats, a week ago, the hard left base was angry and enraged and filled with hate for Donald J. Trump. And then with the Supreme Court vacancy, I think, just to borrow a phrase from the movie Spinal Tap, it just went to 11. I mean, they are...
I like that.
They're out of their minds with fury. And they're going to do everything they can to block the confirmation. Sadly, I expect the confirmation hearings to become a circus like they did in the Kavanaugh hearings, going after Justice Kavanaugh and his family. I think they may well try the same sort of garbage with Judge Barrett, but I don't think it's going to succeed. And I believe Judge Barrett will be confirmed as Justice Barrett by the end of the month before Election Day. And President Trump, in nominating a principled constitutionalist, was honoring the promise he made to the voters, and the Republican Senate, in confirming her, will likewise be honoring the promise we made to the voters.
Senator, let me just ask you, because I remember the Kavanaugh hearings, Democrats, they paid a huge political price. Did they learn from that? I mean, do you have friends on the other side of the aisle that you can go to and say, "Hey, come on, are you guys really going to Kavanaugh this woman?"
I don't know that they did learn. I think their base has just gotten angrier and angrier. Now, it's not clear what they're going to throw at Judge Barrett. I mean, you look at her background. She graduated first in her class from Notre Dame Law School. She was a law clerk for the great Justice Antonin Scalia. She's been a law professor at Notre Dame for 20 years. She's one of the most respected federal appellate judges in the country. And on top of all of that, she's a mom of 7 kids, which I can't even imagine just doing that, much less doing that on top of being one of the most respected federal judges in the country. And I think she brings impeccable qualifications. You know, the main attack they've leveled at her so far is that she's Catholic, and they've been attacking her faith. And
would you explain how that's supposed to work? Because I thought in the Constitution it said you couldn't do that.
You're exactly right. It did not stop Senate Democrats when she was nominated to the Court of Appeals. Senator Dick Durbin, Democrat from Illinois, went after her as a, quote, Orthodox Catholic, which I'm not sure what he means by Orthodox. I guess is, you know, compared to being a heretic. I don't even know what he means by that, but it was apparently bad, whatever he meant. And then Senator Dianne Feinstein, rather infamously put it this way. She said, "The dogma lives loudly in this one," which is a very odd position of the hard left and too many Democrats in the Senate right now, that if you're a person of faith, whether a Catholic or an evangelical or a Mormon or anyone who is a believing person of faith, their view is apparently that renders you unfit to serve as a judge or in public office. And you're exactly right. The Constitution explicitly prohibits a religious test for serving in office, but that doesn't seem to stop the slanders and attacks we're seeing from congressional Democrats.
What is it that Republicans on the Judiciary Committee can do in the 100-member body? Is there anything you can do to stop them from doing this kind of carnage? Well,
I mean, we can't. They can say what they want, and we don't have the ability to muzzle them. But I can promise you that I, for one, and a number of others, are going to fight back, and we're not going to sit by and allow them to slander Judge Barrett, to slander her family. You know, one of the early attacks and salvos we saw is several Democratic operatives began attacking her kids. So 2 of her children, she and her husband adopted from Haiti, and these operatives are raising all these questions. Well, why would they adopt kids from Haiti? What were they doing there? And it's disgusting. Kids should be off bounds, and the fact that these guys would start by attacking young children, sadly, I think it foreshadows how ugly the whole thing may become.
You were on the president's long list, but you said you didn't want to be on that list. Why not?
Well, that's right. I don't want to serve on the court, and I was humbled. I was honored that President Trump put me on his list of potential Supreme Court nominees, and he called and asked me if he could put me on the list. In fact, I tell this story in the book. So it was this summer. I was in California with my in-laws. Heidi's a native Californian, and we were out at a lake water skiing with my girls. And so I was standing on the dock in flip-flops. The girls were water skiing behind me, and President Trump calls me on my cell phone, and he says, "Ted, I'm putting together a new list for the Supreme Court," and he asked me, "Can I add you to the list?" And I said, "Mr. President, sure, I would be honored to be added to the list. If it's helpful to add me to the list, then you should do so. But you should know that I don't want the job, and I wouldn't take it." And he and I had that conversation previously for both of the 2 vacancies before. And the reason, I mean, that may be surprising to some folks, you know, who wouldn't want to serve on the court, but I'll tell you why I don't want to. Because a principled judge stays out of political and policy fights. And if I were ever a judge, I would stay out of these fights. I don't want to stay out of the fights. I want to be leading the fights, and the right place to do that is in the political side in the Senate. Right now, look, a perfect illustration of why I want to be leading the fights is this confirmation battle for Judge Barrett. We're fighting it out in the Senate, and it's my responsibility to lead this fight and to fight not just for Judge Barrett, but to fight for the Constitution and Bill of Rights. And I want to be leading these fights for many years to come.
That's Senator Ted Cruz. We had a chance to visit with him earlier.